My name is Brad Irwin, and I own Oregon Spirit Distillers. We started making whiskey 10 years ago and started making hand sanitizer 10 weeks ago. Hand sanitizer is made from alcohol and it has to go in a bottle. So working with Oregon Health Authority, we got a license to be a pharmaceutical compounding facility, which means that we can make hand sanitizer. And really it is what we've always done, put alcohol in a bottle, but just in a little bit different fashion. Although we had the capability to make it, we didn't have all the labor that we needed to get it into the bottles. Deschutes Brewery reached out to us. They were very willing to help. They said, how can we help? They sent a health and safety officer, sent their packaging engineer and fabrication person. They provided 8 full-time employees for us. So we're now working 2 shifts. We do a 7 a.m. to 3:30, and then we got a second crew that comes in, and we couldn't do that without Deschutes Brewery. Not only are we providing hand sanitizer for our community, part of our contract with OHA is to provide pharmaceutical grade hand sanitizer, and we're producing about 7,500 gallons per week as that contract, while still maintaining hand sanitizer for the community and still making whiskey. We're still producing so that 4 years from now we will still have the same amount of whiskey, and with the additional resources provided to us, we're able to do both. In the midst of the world changing, San Francisco Spirit Competition also released their awards for this year, and our vodka won double gold. It won best of category, which is a huge honor. So our tasting room is open 7 days a week while there's this need for it. We are providing hand sanitizer. If anybody brings in an 8-ounce container, we'll fill 8 ounces for free. You are able to buy alcohol at our tasting room, so you can come pick up hand sanitizer and you can still purchase bottles and enjoy it in the comfort and safety of your home. It feels great to be part of a team, not only the Oregon Spirit team, but the greater Bend community to be able to provide right now. It's really rewarding to be able to participate in that. I can't wait for everything to get back to normal, and I can't wait till we're just sipping cocktails together. But in the meantime, we're here to do what we can.
Good evening, EDCO Pub Talk. I'm Shannon Kelly. I'm so happy to be with you tonight. This is our 3rd virtual live stream Pub Talk, and it's nothing shy of a miracle. We're really glad that you all could tune in. Let's see here. We have a really great lineup tonight. We'd love to be gathering in person, but we're doing the best that we can for now, and we'll keep you updated on how that changes as we go. If you are joining us in Central Oregon, you are sitting or standing on native land, and so we take a moment now to acknowledge the Warm Springs tribes, including the Wasco and Paiute people as well. And if you're joining us from outside of the area, a simple Google search will allow you to find out what land you are standing or sitting on. And on that tune of gratitude, we'll stay right there in that same vein. I'd like to thank our MC sponsor, IPDM and CS Construction, who have together created a turnkey one-stop shopping program where you can take your idea from a twinkle in your eye all the way through development and turn it into walls. And actually, our friends over at IPDM and CS Construction have several projects going around town. So keep your eyes open. They really know what they're doing. It is a real honor to be able to offer this event to you for free during this time. So we'll take a moment now to say thank you to all of our title sponsors. And we're going to go ahead and start with Corey Allen, SVP for Commercial Banking Team Leader from Columbia Bank.
Hello, fellow Pub Talkers. Corey Allen with Columbia Bank coming to you virtually one more time here. Excited to get this Pub Talk going, and want to say thank you to EDCO as well as the speakers and the participants for keeping the Pub Talk series going. It's nice to have some sort of routine still in place here during these crazy times. I wanted to give a quick update. Obviously very big in the news, and what's taken a lot of focus for business owners in the banking world has been the Sba Ppp program. A lot of that process has been gone through now as far as those funds have been allocated and received. And the big focus now really is on how do we get those dollars deferred. There isn't a deferral process in place with the SBA. However, we continue to get additional updates from the SBA on what exactly this looks like. What we're telling our borrowers right now is just make sure you're tracking and keeping very good records of those dollars and keep them in a separate account or just separate tracking of some sort. We've also done some webinars with, available to customers to be able to review and watch kind of the information as we get it. We've been relaying that info. Some CPA firms have also been doing something very similar. So I encourage you, if you're still looking for information, reach out to your local banker or bank and chat with them about what's available right now. We should be getting some additional guidelines on this very soon, as we'll have a 60-day period once the spending allocation goes away to have those deferrals submitted. So as we continue to get information on that, we'll send updates out and hopefully have a more streamlined process for that when it's all said and done. I did want to say Columbia Bank is open for business. We opened our lobbies on Tuesday, actually, for walk-in traffic, maintaining social distancing, of course. And we have been still working with our business clients and prospects on capital needs such as real estate loans, commercial lines of credit, and equipment loans. Rates are very attractive right now still. The 10-year treasury remains at all-time lows. So we'd love the opportunity to chat with you if you have any of those needs that come up and have an opportunity to earn your business. Phase 1 is going, and I want to say I'm real excited about that. It gives us an opportunity to be out there and support our local businesses. I encourage you to do the same. Buy those gift cards, order takeout, go out and eat if you're comfortable doing so. But please, let's all come together and support those businesses that have been the most affected by this pandemic. Thank you all for joining tonight. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.
Much. It's great to see you, and happy phase 1 reopening to you. Sounds like it's going pretty well over there for you all. Our next title sponsor is Sean Dunn, mortgage specialist with Directors Mortgage. Sean, how are you?
Hey everyone, Sean Dunn, Directors Mortgage here. Thanks again for joining us. I wanted to reach out with 2 quick reminders. As you can see, I'm outside enjoying some beautiful Bend sunshine. Make sure you get out in these uncertain times, take walks, soak up some of that sun. Keep your mind and soul healthy, as well as we're also focused on keeping our bodies healthy right now. And then second, let's look into refinancing. Rates have just stayed very, very low, and there's no harm in crunching the numbers and seeing if a potential refinance makes sense for you. So feel free to reach out to Randy Vance or myself, Sean Dunn, at Directors Mortgage. We can crunch some numbers. We don't pull credit or anything like that, and just see if switching to a 20-year, lowering your payment, shaving off some months of interest is a good plan for you. We'd love to help you out. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. It's a great reminder that one of our top priorities should be taking care of our health, but also great to hear how it's going over there in mortgage land with you all. All right, next up is Jordan Smith with VLOC Systems. Jordan, how are you?
Hey, good evening, Pub Talk. Welcome again. Thanks again to Edco to putting this on. Looking forward again to seeing everybody soon. My name is Jordan Smith with VLOC Systems, and we do technology consulting for small businesses in Central Oregon. So if you have anything that that relies on technology, it probably refers to a few of you out there. That's what we specialize in, and we love seeing businesses grow. We love seeing businesses solve hard problems, and so we're there to do that with you, creating technology that's awesome, that works for you, and then we support you, of course, with our service desk and our team moving forward. So I don't know if any of you are like me, kind of figuring out that rent is a little more optional than we once thought it was. So if you're looking to go into a spaceless or small space working environment, technology can help you get there. And we've been doing that a lot with our clients, moving them from large spaces to small spaces, with people optionally working from home or remotely in some creative ways. So if you're looking to reduce rent costs, change your real estate strategy, and make your business a little more efficient that way, give us a call at VLOC Systems. And yeah, otherwise we'll turn it back and have a good pub talk.
Thanks, Jordan. It's great to see you. Never have wanted a beard before, but now after seeing how amazing yours is coming through, I feel a little jealous of something I never thought I actually wanted. Also would love to reduce my rent. Huh? Next up, Kurt Barker, attorney at Carnut Peterson. Kurt, how are you?
Hey everybody, Kirk Barker from Carnut Peterson. Good to see you all. Wish we were here together. Whole firm at Carnut Peterson, we're still working hard to help our clients and super thankful for that. Speaking of our clients though, tons of them are asking this question. Say they're reopening, say they are seeing that increase in business they've been anxious for, and they're ready to call their workers back. But you've got an employee who doesn't want to come. Maybe they're afraid, maybe that unemployment insurance is just a little too good right now. What do you do? Well, first of all, if it's for a protected reason, say they're staying away for an actual disability, a quarantine order, maybe there's childcare needs because of a school closure, or maybe they're taking care of someone with COVID-19. If any of those types of things apply, definitely check with a friendly employment attorney. But otherwise, you've got options. The typical playbook for me with someone like that would be to give them a final chance in writing. Let them know, hey, we know you've got these safety concerns. We've done all these things to address them, and we're open to new ideas, but we need you back by such and such date, or we have to fill your position. And then most of the times you can act on that. Again, if you need help with those kind of situations, we've got a group of 4 employment attorneys here who are, including me, who are ready to help. Everyone, take care.
Thanks, Kirk. I know that's not an easy issue to be handling, so we appreciate your perspective. And I also wish we could all be together, and we will be soon enough. All right, I am so excited to introduce to you our EDCO CEO, Roger Lee. Roger, give us a director's minute, would you?
Well, welcome again to Pub Talk for this month of May. We're excited to hear from our entrepreneurs and our keynote speaker. So thanks for joining us again this evening for another edition. Well, one of the things we've, as a signature event for EDCO is BBC, the Ben Venture Conference. And we're excited to announce that BBC is going to be happening one way or another, and most likely in person, coming up here in October. So we're heavy in the stages of planning BBC right now. And so we'll put that on your calendar for the 3rd week of October. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. In other good news, we're excited to let you know that economic development and business recruitment is still happening behind the scenes here in Central Oregon. We've actually initiated an effort with some of our colleagues across the state through an effort called Team Oregon. We're actually recruiting companies, or looking to recruit companies out of the Vancouver, BC area who may need a presence in the U.S. and naturally would look at a West Coast location. And we're pushing the advantages of what Oregon has to offer in our Central Oregon region as well. So those calls have been happening here the last several weeks. And we continue to get inquiries in Central Oregon of people that are interested in relocating their businesses here. One just came across my desk this morning that's in the final stages of actually acquiring a building and moving their business out of another West Coast metro into Redmond. So good things are still happening on that front, which we need them, I think, from a job creation perspective, just to keep our economy rolling and recover from the impacts of COVID measures. So we'll thanks again for joining us this evening for Pub Talk, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in person sometime soon.
Thanks so much, Roger. Great news about BBC. I know that we're a little ways out from having some answers there, but I just want to say any way I can help, you know my number. I also want to take just a moment to acknowledge how resilient our business community is. I know all of us have had just countless examples of seeing people come together, support each other, and it really has been quite the silver lining. Did you know that EDCO is a membership organization with nearly 350 members, membership making up about 35% of our annual budget? If you are not yet an EDCO member, consider it today to support the important work they're doing behind the scenes here in Central Oregon. Okay, attendees, I have 2 ways that you can actually interact with us tonight. I have to say one of the things I miss the most is being able to take your questions in person. So it's important to me that you know that we can still take your questions live during this event. So the first way is to ask in the YouTube chat bar, which if you're watching via YouTube should be on the right-hand side of this video. You do, however, need to be logged into a Google account to ask this way. Your other option, if you're not logged into a Google account, is to email your questions to events@edcoinfo.com. That's events@edcoinfo.com, and we'll take care of the rest. And we look forward to all of your questions and feedback. It really does shape our program in a special way. So on to tonight's early stage companies provided by supporting sponsors, University of Oregon. This is a message from University of Oregon. They want to congratulate all you parents and graduating seniors. Did you know that around 500 students from this area attend the University of Oregon? And they are so grateful for their students and alumni during this challenging and unknown time, and the support for higher education is paramount and more important than ever. And University of Oregon is so grateful for all alumni and friends that are helping the cause. So thank you, and go Ducks. And also Corvo, a high-tech manufacturing and design center looking for passionate, energetic, and self-driven individuals interested in manufacturing and technology. And during this challenging time, Corvo remains committed to problem solving while keeping our families and our community safe. So check out their career opportunities at volt.com and corvo.com. That's QORVO.com. Now, do we have any gamers out there? From what I hear, gaming has become something of a bit of a essential need during this time. Founder and CEO Austin Anderson first took the Pub Talk stage back in April of 2019 and introduced Rupie, a game industry platform dedicated to helping recruiters and talent acquisition specialists access pre-vetted talent faster. Rupie helps cut through the noise and find top industry, genre, role-specific candidates who will actually respond to your inquiries. Austin, I hear there may be some good news to share, so take it away.
Thanks, Shannon. I really appreciate that. Any feedback? No, it sounds good. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Austin Anderson. I have definitely attended Pub Talk and BBC in the past. I'm the founder and CEO of Rupie. We are a managed verticalized labor marketplace for the games industry. And as Shannon was just talking about, the games industry is certainly blowing up. I mean, everybody is kind of a gamer right now, and in some way or another. And it's a really interesting time. We're seeing some massive records getting broken in the games industry. Last month, I think 73% higher game sales overall. It was like $1.5 billion in total game sales, which is just incredible. Steam, which is a massive distribution platform for PC games, hit all-time records, in terms of concurrent players and games distribution. So, we're at a very interesting time. Where Rupie's at, we're kind of at this crossroads between, the games industry and also hiring. And as we know, hiring has also taken a turn for the more interesting, given this Corona landscape. As big companies are going remote and that sort of thing, and I'll talk about that a little bit tonight. But yeah, so we actually just closed a seed round at the very beginning, first week of this whole Corona situation. We raised $1.4 million, led by Convoy Ventures. Really exciting time. I'll be completely honest, we were really nervous because things were just shifting so much. But now, with myself and my two other co-founders, we're doing really well. And it's overall, it's a really great experience in a great position, given games are, becoming this sort of epicenter of multimedia right now in terms of consumption. We're seeing a lot of sports, venture capitalists moving into esports, and it's growing huge. And what's really interesting is that big studios like EA and Activision, for example, previously there was this pretty massive dogma and stigma associated with hiring and hiring people and having them be in person. And now what's happening is, I think the CEO of EA was just announced that, it's okay. We're probably just going to go, people can work remotely for as long as they want. We're seeing this happening with Twitter right now and a couple of the, credit card processing companies. And so it's a really massive change. And, tonight I really just wanted to talk about that change, and both on the hiring side, but also on the fundraising side. And on the hiring side, it's really interesting. We're seeing this massive, movement in terms of remote work. I think the CEO of Redfin was recently talking about that and discussing how, major cities are he's predicting major cities are having this sort of depletion of talent because, people are asking themselves, okay, I'm working for Twitter, and Twitter just announced, Jack Dorsey just announced that I could work permanently remotely. So why would I, stay in this inner city and incur, high cost of living when I can just go elsewhere, right? And so they're seeing this massive growth in the Midwest, and I'm predicting that we're going to see a huge boom in residential real estate and potentially commercial real estate in places where the cost of living is low, or where quality of life is really valued. So for example, Bend is a place where quality of life is obviously really valued, right? So you might actually see, a lot of an influx of remote workers coming in from some of these companies, especially if this cascade sort of happens. And, eventually a lot of these larger companies, FANG companies, are basically pushed to have permanent remote work policies. So, with Rupie, we're really taking, advantage of this landscape, but also we're trying to help people in terms of finding new placements. What's really great about the games industry and hiring is everybody's just hiring and hiring and hiring. Big studios are just, the good way of thinking about it is if people are buying games and people are playing games, then the studios are doing well, and we're sort of augmenting studio process in terms of helping make those really great matches, those really great talent matches, and kind of doing it using our proprietary qualitative assessment. That's, it's more like dating, right? We're like kind of turning game talent hiring into sort of this dating situation. So, it's a really interesting landscape right now. And fundraising is also a really interesting landscape too. We originally we sought out and talked to, I think I talked to 70 or 80 different venture capitalists, and a lot of them were general market venture capitalists. But I think right now, for all those listening who are raising money, it's easy, I think, to be dismayed at this climate, right? But the reality is you have to think about it in terms of a venture capitalist perspective, which is that they still have a lot of money. They have money that they need to deploy. And so you just have to change your strategy. I really recommend a kind of a guerrilla strategy in terms of raising money right now. So if you're raising funds right now, what I really recommend doing is doing a lot more research and targeting strategic investors. That's something that if I repeated this process again, I would have done earlier. I would have found somebody, that really believed in this problem set that we're solving, and, maybe go on Google and research similar deals that have closed to whatever vertical that your company is in, and then reach out to those people directly. Maybe a GP that kind of led the deal, right? Who really believed in the problem that you're solving, understood the market, understood the vision. It's really good to kind of target that. And the breadth-wise approach, I think, it might not work as well, given kind of how shaky the landscape is. But I think if you become super targeted and just stay very specialized, I think, in your lane and your vertical, I think you might have a lot of really great success. It's right now, from just a hiring perspective and a Corona perspective, things can seem very uncertain in the business world, especially. But there's some industries that are doing really well, right? I mean, I think a lot of it is multimedia companies and Netflix, for example. I think a lot of us have depleted our watching of Netflix. There's just nothing left, and you're like, well, hey, Netflix, please, can you create more content for us, right? So, I mean, there's a lot that's going on there, and I think a lot of the changes are going to ultimately be permanent. So it's really good to just, don't give up on the fundraising side. Don't give up on the hiring side. Be creative. Hire in places that have not, haven't typically been the traditional epicenter of top talent. Go look for people. Right now, given this sort of more flexible work situation, that might be able to come and join your team. And then on the fundraising side, my message tonight is mostly about finding strategics and being and having a guerrilla mentality about how to find those people. And I think you'll really succeed, and so I think that's kind of most of my message tonight. From a Rupie perspective, we're targeting potentially doing a Series A later in the year, depending how we're doing. We're kind of right now we're pulling on big game studios right now that are really interested in scaling the team really quickly. We're really pleased to be a Bend-based company. I think Bend is becoming this really, hotspot for the games industry with Sony here, et cetera. And yeah, just keep supporting those games. Keep playing those games, folks. I think that's what I have to say.
A message of hope for the people, Austin. Thank you so much. So huge congrats on the raise. And our audience is wondering, what does it allow you to do that you may not have been able to do without it? Yeah.
So what's really interesting about data and filtering down qualitative people in the games industry, there's no shortage of talent in the games industry. It's just that the games industry has been notoriously difficult for discovering who is really good. And what we're doing is taking a lot of game industry proprietary attributes and building out these profiles around these people, these like really rich game industry profiles, in making connections based on this data. So part of Rupie is certainly, I think a data play in that way, but ultimately it's just about creating relationships with these game studios and helping them solve a lot of the core problems when it comes down to, hiring velocity, time to hire, time to place. There's a lot of noise in the industry right now. Yes, you can use the LinkedIn. I was working at LinkedIn previously. You can use LinkedIn. LinkedIn's great, but LinkedIn's a general market tool. The games industry is a very unique animal with a unique set of problems and a unique set of characteristics and a unique set of talent. And we're doing something that really nobody's done before, and it's really exciting.
It's awesome. I have a friend who, her husband, I believe, works for Sony, and I don't want you to find out about him because I don't want them to have to move. I'm so selfish. I'm so selfish. So did the fundraising get dicey at all once COVID hit, or were your investors pretty locked in?
So we had, I think, a few backouts. Yeah. I mean, it did get a little dicey. We had really great investors. And I think this is just echoing my previous sentiment about finding people who, before you even talk to them, believe in the vision, right? Believe in the problem set. Because when they're at the table, they're going to be far more resilient to back down or to backing away, given economic challenges or, climate changes, right? So I think, it wasn't just smooth sailing. I mean, we raised for, I was talking to investors for 6 months or something like that. It was quite a while. And, but ultimately we found the right set of people who really believed in us. And if I did it differently, that's what I would have done. I would have done different, which is just, not just sought out the investors with a dollar sign in mind, but sought out the investors with the domain-oriented knowledge about what you're doing.
Oh, that's really great advice. And I think it's really relevant to just about any industry. So thank you for that. And so what is next for all of you? Yeah.
So really exciting. I think by the end of the year, we're going to get to V1. We're growing our team right now. We're hiring. If there's any, great engineering talent out there, please reach out to me, Austin at Rupie.io. We're growing our engineering team. We're a team of about 10 right now. We're looking to make a really big impact in the games industry as a whole. And I won't mention who, but we're talking to some pretty big names, which is really exciting. And we're just solving a big industry pain point that, we care about the community first. We're a community first platform. You kind of have to be in the games industry. It's a small, tight knit group of people, right? But ultimately, it's like we're kind of snowballing into solving this big problem.
That's awesome. Well, again, huge congrats on your success, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Thanks for being here tonight, Austin, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Wow, awesome. Right. Great to hear from you, Austin. Okay, so let's see. Taking over games and podcasts are also a huge player during COVID time. So sponsoring our next early stage pitch is Sba CPAs, looking for an accountant with great client service and technology. Call Sba CPAs for the best online accounting experience in the business. And also COCC Small Business Development Center. They are still open, helping local small businesses, and especially during these challenging times, they know that they are needed. So they are there for you. Business advisors keeping abreast of the daily development during COVID-19. And if you have questions, just reach out. So have you ever listened to a podcast, heard something interesting, and then had to stop what you're doing and take a note? Nota updates the podcast user experience in a new and smarter and visually enhanced way. The platform consists of a mobile app that lets users see or lets listeners see, save, and share noteworthy items from their favorite podcasts while enabling podcast hosts to manage, measure, and monetize their content. Question of the day. So let's hear how all of that's going to come together with Nota from co-founder and CEO himself, Brian Wald. Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm good, Shannon. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you here. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction, and hello, everybody. And as Shannon mentioned, my name is Brian Wald, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nota. Nota is a one-of-a-kind podcast player for your phone that displays visual and interactive content that complements the podcast audio experience. Now, before creating Nota, I started my career at Yahoo 20 years ago, back when Yahoo was a startup and one of the coolest companies on the planet. The internet era was just beginning, and I was hooked. I helped Yahoo monetize a dozen of their biggest properties, some of which you might have used back in the day. Think Yahoo Movies, games, Yellow Pages, maps, and more. After Yahoo, I went to another startup called Facebook. At the time, Facebook was just a website But it was super cool. Social media was just in its infancy. And over the years, I helped Facebook build and grow their advertising business. Social media got really hot, but I never imagined it would grow to a $70 billion a year juggernaut. It was a really, really exciting ride. But along the way, I started to see another emerging trend, podcasting. Now, I love listening to podcasts, and it turns out there's a lot of people like me. In the US alone, over 100 million people listen to podcasts every month. And in addition to a lot of people listening to podcasts, a lot of brands are starting to advertise on podcasts. You know the ads I'm talking about. They go something like this. Today's episode is brought to you by, insert name a sponsor. Go to www.sponsorname.com/XYZ and enter the promo code 123 for this offer. Really cumbersome, but it's necessary for podcasters to earn money. Speaking of money, estimates show that annual podcast advertising will cross $1 billion by the end of next year. So we're seeing podcast consumption and revenue growing at double-digit percentages year over year for 10 consecutive years now, and it shows no sign of slowing down. However, with all this great momentum, innovation is kind of stagnated. Now, as much as I love listening to podcasts, I always felt that there was something missing. Right? The audio experience is great, but I actually wanted to be able to see and engage with the most interesting things being mentioned in my favorite podcast episodes. And after speaking with a lot of people, including my co-founder, turns out I wasn't alone. And that's why we created Nota. If you want a visual aid, you can go to our website right now at nota.fm to see what the experience is like. That's nota.fm. So allow me to explain how Nota is different than the traditional podcast experience. Today, if you want to listen to a podcast, probably use your phone. You launch any number of podcast apps, you find the episode you want to listen to, and you press play. Aside from the podcast cover art that's displayed on the screen, nothing else happens during that session. You might spend 10, 30, 60 minutes with this podcast, and yet nothing visually appears on that screen. There's an opportunity here. This is valuable, but as of now, wasted digital real estate. When you listen to a podcast on Nota, however, that real estate will be visual and interactive. For example, you'll be able to see photos of the guest to allow you to put a face to the voice, view products that are being discussed, link to articles being referenced, share memorable quotes with your friends from the conversation, buy books from Amazon that are being recommended, and view clips on YouTube that are being mentioned in the podcast conversation. We call these additive and individual pieces of content note cards, and they appear during the playback in real time, and they're synced with the conversation. Now, this is great for the listener because now they can see, save, and share podcast content. It creates a whole new connection with the podcaster, and we hope that it'll make today's podcast experience seem outdated. Note cards in this new format are great for podcasters too. First, it provides a better experience for their listeners and their fans. It also allows them to create and insert meaningful calls to actions, such as driving people to their websites and linking them directly to their products and services. They'll be able to increase their visibility and distribution. In the case of podcasters with those sponsors that I was just mentioning, they can complement that ad with a note card, and they will now have clickable, measurable ads. Lastly, we provide some really unique analytics for podcasters. Podcasters will be able to see at a really granular level what people are viewing, clicking, liking, and sharing. It's something that simply can't be done with audio only. So for the first time, podcasters will be able to manage, measure, and monetize their content like never before. And there's a lot going on here. It's all going to be free to the listener and the podcaster. How? Well, the short answer is through advertising. We're going to do this for a few reasons. First, it's in my career DNA, for better or worse. Second, ads are easy to scale. Third, the profit margins are huge. And when it comes to mobile apps, it's a tried and true model. Think Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, etc. And when I mentioned that podcast advertising will be 1 billion by 2021, it's impressive, but consider that that'll still represent less than 1% of all advertising spent online. That's right. Companies spend over $130 billion a year advertising online. As you can see, even with a tiny sliver of that pie, podcast has a ton of room for monetization. I think that's why Spotify just spent $100 million for the rights to the Joe Rogan podcast. So where are we today? Today we have a functioning mobile app for the iPhone at the MVP Plus stage. It does all the things that I mentioned, but it needs some additional development to increase stability and allow for some scale before we actually launch publicly. Our web-based publishing tool for podcasters is complete, and that's ready to launch with our app. And we have commitment from a dozen interested podcasters and hundreds of listeners. Currently, the team consists of 3. It's me, my co-founder, who's run a web development and marketing company in Phoenix for the past dozen years. And we have a head of partnerships who comes with a great pedigree of not only working with global brands, but he created and sold a niche social media company to a large television network years ago. So it's great to have someone on the team who's not only launched a startup, but who also had a meaningful exit. So at Nota, our mission is to forever change the way millions of people experience podcasts. In order to make this happen, what we need right now is a talented developer to build upon our existing MVP so that we can launch the app publicly. We want this person to be a long-term key member of the company. So our next step will be to gain traction, raise a seed round of investment, and then build an ad network so we can monetize at scale. If you want to be involved or you can help in any way, please email me. My email address is brian, with an I, at nota.fm, or you can find me at LinkedIn. So I want to thank you very much for tuning in today. And if we have time, I'd love to answer any questions you may have.
Brian, I wish I could be your candidate. This is such an exciting project. I love it. So do you have any competition? Is there anyone out there in the space trying to do something similar?
Yes, there are a handful of companies. They've got the right idea, but they're falling short in a number of different areas that I think we can capitalize on. So I've identified, let's call it 4, that do some sort of a visual component, but they fall short in their design, their lack of analytics. Some of them actually force podcasters to pay to use the service, which, I come from Yahoo and Facebook where you just give it away for free. People will come. Once you put that wall in and start charging, it really reduces adoption. But in terms of meaningful competition, that's a Spotify, that's an Apple, that's an Amazon. It's the big ones out there that have the largest market share. But for the niche that we're in, I think we'll be standing alone in that.
That's great. I love to hear that. So I know that you're still in sort of development stage. So have you been able to put this into play? Do you have any podcasters that have started to use it and work with the app, and any feedback about that experience?
We've done many demos, online demos with several podcasters, and each and every one has said, "This is awesome. The wheels are spinning in my head right now. I can't wait to use it. Sign me up when." And unfortunately, we're solving that when problem. So as soon as the mobile app is complete, we'll call it 95% there, we can go ahead and launch and get them on board. So we have the intention and the verbal agreements to do so, but we can't do it until we have an experience that, with mobile apps, you have one shot. Somebody takes the time to install your application, it crashes, it doesn't function the way it's promised, etc. They're not coming back. So we're being very thoughtful. We're close, but we're just not there yet. And I think what we need now is that hire to come in full time, as most of this was built, and we bootstrapped this whole thing, and we've hired people, developers in the past. We need a developer as a full-time employee to be part of the company.
Sure, that makes really good sense. And I agree with you. I think you're right on to be careful with how you launch this thing. So who's on your wish list of podcasters, in the fantasy world?
It's funny because Joe Rogan was actually the reason we created this podcast, because For those of you who haven't listened to him, he can rant for 3 hours straight, but he talks about things that you really want to see and interact with because they're so far out there. So he is the one that we would have wanted to have on board. He's going to Spotify, though, come next year. So other podcasters are Tim Ferriss, The Pitch, Serial, Freakonomics. I mean, there's a laundry list of people they're perfect for this platform. You know, if you're mentioning articles and you want reference, I want to be able to see it right in the app and click on it or save it for later. If somebody's mentioning a book that changed their life, I want to be able to just click and go right to Amazon in real time. So there's a lot of them out there. No shortage of podcasters.
Right. No shortage of podcasters. I know a few myself. So is there any sort of buzz happening yet? Or are podcasters starting to mention Nota to their listeners? Is there any kind of anticipation happening publicly?
We have purposefully been stealth. So until it's ready to launch, until we have a defined date, we've been had a very low profile. So very little social media, just outreach directly to podcasters and having those conversations, but nothing publicly, because we don't want to put this out there and still be 6 months from a launch or 3 months from a launch.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. So, and just so that I'm clear, so I thought I heard you say like this can also be a place where podcasters could host as well. Like the whole thing would be kind of run through Nota.
Well, the nice thing about podcasting is that the audio is through a public RSS feed. So the audio is hosted elsewhere. The images and the analytics would be hosted with us. Some players want podcasters to be hosted on their platform, but it's really unnecessary.
Cool. Well, I think it's an awesome idea, and I just can't wait to see you launch. So hopefully our EDCO community can put their feelers out, and we'll get you that great full-time, long-term, super talented developer. Brian, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for being here, and thanks for what you're doing. This is very, very, very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and look forward to hearing from you guys.
Sure thing. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
All right. Now we are on to our Keynote, sponsored by Barrett Business Services, Inc., or BBSI, who congratulates those businesses able to reopen in phase 1. We hope to see you all soon at Pub Talk. And also Central Oregon Association of Realtors, COAR, reports that the Central Oregon housing market had a rough April, but is coming back strong in May. Visit COAR.com to find the latest market statistics. Kirk Richardson, former president of Keen Footwear, now serves as the senior advisor to Keen Footwear in Portland, lives right here in Sisters, and specializes in supply chain sustainability and business leadership. Over his 40-year career in the athletic and outdoor industries, Kirk has held leadership positions at Nike, Columbia Sportswear, Mountain Hardwear, Specialized Bicycles, and of course, Keen. His keynote tonight will focus on why companies need to embrace sustainable business practices while also striving to earn a reputation as a values-led brand. And I get the good pleasure of moderating Kirk tonight, and we had a great couple conversations ahead of time. So, Kirk, I know you have a few good stories to share over that 40-year career. What do you want to start with?
Great question. Where do you start? Well, I'll start with Keen. I mean, I have to tell you, for an Oregon-based company, it's a company that has really been led by values and a very stable family. For those of you that don't know Keen, it's a 21st century company, started 17 years ago, and moved to Portland about 15 years ago from Palo Alto. Our founder, Rory First, made a pledge when he started the company in 2003 to really infuse the company with I think a couple of values: building strong community and a healthier planet. And that's been really a theme for us from the outset. We had an unusual event land in our laps in 2004, December 2004. For those of you who follow natural disasters, the world's largest one hit off the coast of Sumatra and Java, the Indonesian earthquake 9.1 on the Richter scale that set off a tsunami, which ended up devastating coastal communities around the entire Indian Ocean basin, from Malaysia to South Africa, and ended up sadly eliminating 235,000 people's lives. So at that moment, based on kind of how the company was set in motion and the values that it wanted to live by, he took a pretty bold decision. And this is at a stage when the company is about 18 months old. And he said, we are going to devote our entire marketing investment of $1 million that we were planning to spend in 2005 on disaster relief. And that kind of changed everything. We have been, since that time, from 05 to 20, we've grown every year and been profitable. So that's a good thing. I will tell you that in a COVID environment, let's keep our fingers crossed on 2020. It seems to be normalizing a little bit more than it was 60 days ago, but it's still a tough environment. But in that time, we have literally given away $20 million and about $18 million in product, just donated. And this is to people around the world, from the Australian fires we all witnessed, at the beginning of this year, end of last year, to flood and hurricane and tsunami and typhoon victims in the Philippines, the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic seaboard, people who lost their homes and property in Superstorm Sandy in New York City, New Jersey. We've been on the ground, and that's been a driving force, I think, for who we've magnetized. And I really want to underscore, I think being a values-led company has been so meaningful. I mean, people love to work there because they get 40 hours of paid volunteer service per year. That doesn't hurt. But people love to reach out and try and make the world a better place while they're being working for an outdoor company that's making outdoor footwear. So that's kind of where we started, and that's a story that I think really has resonated for Keen and its success over the years.
Yeah, I love that. I have a lot of respect for Keen as a company, and I loved hearing more about your specific experiences with it. What drew you to them in the first place? And I'm specifically wondering why. What's the benefit of working for a values-led company, and what exactly does that mean to position yourself as a values-led company?
I could answer that question a number of different ways, but I'm going to kind of drive the answer over toward supply chain sustainability and literally how we compose our products. The company is trying to do no unnecessary harm. It's trying to minimize its impact from a manufacturing perspective and thinking through product from conception to end of life. And so in a values-led company that's family owned, it doesn't have quarterly numbers necessarily to hit every single quarter. As long as the owner is happy, we're able to make investments in things like just being bold enough to go against the grain, to fight the inertia of using conventional 20th century solutions to things like, of all things in footwear, foot odor. 90+% of the people building footwear on the face of the globe are using pesticides, to fight the foot funk. And we just said, why on earth would we want to, use pesticides, this 20th century, 1950s, 60s solution, when it's, pesticides, biocides are known carcinogens. So we just said, we're not going to do it. So we sought out a company up in Canada that was beginning to use probiotic lactobacillus as an active ingredient to stop the foot odor from occurring, but it's not hazardous. It's not toxic. It's not bioaccumulative. It's not dangerous. You don't even have to register it. I mean, it's food safe, right? Fermented in Florida and is sent wherever we build shoes. So it's that, I think, is an example of like what you can do if you work in a values-led company, and you can take the time. We took 6 years to get rid of PFCs, poly and perfluorinated chemical compounds that are, again, super hazardous to human health and the environment. And it was a slow process because you find they're everywhere. They're kind of hidden. And so just looking at our bill of materials, we found them in over 100 different vended items. So we had to go back and explain to our vendors why we weren't going to buy their components, their parts, their materials until they got rid of them. And that is really a source of pride. I mean, if you ask employees today, why do you like working at Keen? A lot of it has to do with really making substantive change happen.
Yeah, I love the example of using the lactobacillus as your agent for fighting the foot funk. I think this is like a perfect example of, and it's so relevant to the climate that we're in right now, a perfect example of what it looks like to really be a leader, to go against the grain for the benefit of humanity. And as you and I discussed in our call preparing for tonight's talk, the average American does not have the knowledge and the information that they need to protect themselves. And for example, the sole of the foot has like the most open pores per square inch of anywhere on the body. So to be absorbing when you're sweating, when you're active, your pores are open, your body's really vulnerable to these cancer-causing agents. This is actually like a huge revolution. And Keen is just, you're not tooting your own horn. You're not asking for special awards for it. You're just kind of doing it because it's the right thing to do. And right now that is really a powerful statement to make as a company.
Yeah. No, it's kept me there 11 years, and I hope to stay longer. It's fun, and we've eliminated literally over 90% of the PFCs. We've eliminated 100% of the pesticides. I mean, it's not that hard if you have a vision about doing the right thing. And I think there are a number of other good examples. Another one that I think people don't know so much about is like the circular economy. But if you're out there and you're making anything, whether you're vending anything from packaging to textiles to adhesives to leather, there are just a number of great examples of where we're making a heck of a lot of progress. For example, in the circular economy, which is taking, making, and reclaiming and using again and again and again, our tanneries are all powered by renewable energy, solar energy. They've gone to lighter weight machinery, so they even draw less electricity, right? They've gone to water treatment facilities that use 5-stage reverse osmosis to purify the water so that the water that they're drawing locally gets used in an endless circle. You're not depleting the aquifer. You're not depleting a watershed like, say, the Deschutes River by sucking out, millions of gallons of water to tan leather. So we're even going to the point of dechromifying the water, taking the salt out of the water and putting that back into the tanning process, but not discharging it, being irresponsible, externalizing it back into a local watershed or aquifer. So there's so many examples of things like that we're beginning to get our arms around to reduce our impact, slow down climate change in our own little enterprise.
Well, I think this is a perfect transition because, I think the question for many of our pub talkers is there's a concern that pursuing some of these types of initiatives will be more expensive and won't really have the return that they feel they need early on in the process. But you had kind of a different story to tell about that. So maybe you can give our audience a couple of really simple ways that they can start to clean up their manufacturing process.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. I think it's a great question. And, first off, I'm not a chemistry major or graduate, but all of this information you can get your hands on super simply. Wikipedia, clearly your best friend. I would just say, for early stage startup companies, don't be concerned about you're going to have to hire an organic chemist. I mean, if you want some consulting, you can find them, and I can give you some names of people to work with. But very, very simply, kind of the expense of literally writing an email and corresponding with your suppliers or your factories, wherever they are in the world, You can reduce your impacts and detoxify. You can go on your own detox journey like Keen has gone on by simply asking for a California Prop 65 certificate of compliance. Like the state of California went big. I mean, they just said, look, if our federal government is not going to necessarily be so vigilant around, chemicals which could compromise, let's say, your immune system, your reproductive system, your hormonal system, California is going to do it. So they're checking very, very carefully at Port of Long Beach or Port of Oakland as to what's coming in these containers, and you want to know that because they're looking for a lot of different things that could be hazardous to the environment or health. Well, so you can literally ask your vendor, hey, do you have on hand one of those compliance forms that tells you're in compliance with all the standards required for the state of California? Because I guarantee you, in the United States of America at least, they have the highest standards at this point in time. Perhaps another state will surpass them. We'll see. A second one that's really, really, really simple and people don't think to do is you just simply say to your vendor, we'll be happy to buy your high quality material, component, input to this product we're assembling or you're assembling to bring over to the United States or Canada or Europe or wherever it is. But I need to see the test results for RSL. What's that mean? Restricted Substance List. And that's a very simple thing to do. You can Google RSL and it'll tell you literally what the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the EPA have divined that these are the thresholds. You can maybe have 500 parts per million of cadmium, but only 4 parts of some fluorinated or brominated chemical compound. So you can literally put the onus on the supplier and go, clearly you of course have sent your material to a third party to verify that there are no dangerous chemical compounds.
Well, and what's interesting, I think, is both of the suggestions you just made are absolutely free. But if you fail to do these things and your shipment comes in, your container comes into a port, and one of these, very toxic chemicals holds up your process, what can that look like? Just briefly for people to understand what can happen when you get stopped at customs.
Well, I'll give you an example, and it's a case where we failed. Keen failed. In the biggest port in Europe is Rotterdam, as many of you may know, in Holland or the Netherlands. And they're receiving 75,000 containers a day, just to give you a sense of how much traffic goes through there. They have very strict requirements in Holland on VOCs, which are toxic gases that could be coming off your products that have been baking in the sun for 45 days in transit from Thailand to Holland. And they're artificially concentrated because they've been in a 40-foot container for that long. But if you have VOCs that are too high, your trailer is going to be sent to an off-gassing facility. It's going to be scrubbed. You're going to pay demurrage. You're going to pay somebody to drive that truck over. You're going to pay a fine. And that's the way they roll. I mean, it's very expensive. And in time is money, as you guys know in business. I mean, if you don't hit a delivery with an important distributor or customer, such as maybe REI in the footwear industry or MEC, the same in Canada, you're going to be charged back quite a bit of money for failing to hit maybe their Father's Day sale or their getting gear sale or whatever it is.
Sure. So if you don't care about doing the right thing, you can care about the bottom line, and it will make a huge impact. So it's anything to add on simple things that sort of startup companies should maybe pay attention to, and particularly in the manufacturing and sustainable manufacturing processes?
Well, I would say 2 things. One is just please embrace and adopt the precautionary principle. Like if you don't think you need some seven-syllable word like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in your whatever it is, insist that it's not there. I mean, it literally, when you figure out what the causality and the detriment to either the environment or human beings might be potentially for overexposure to one of these things, just insist that it's not in your product. I mean, just and you got to trust but verify, and periodically you might want to run your own tests just to verify that the laboratories they've used, you may want to double shoot that a little bit, but that's inexpensive. The other thing I'd say is use your business voice. I mean, your elected officials, your entire delegation from the state of Oregon, whether it's, our Dean Ron Wyden in the Senate, or Jeff Merkley, or Earl Blumenauer, your local representatives like Greg Walden, tell them what, you need from our government to be responsive to the business needs that you're putting on trade, putting on customs, because that's kind of where this activity gets caught up in the transactions you're probably in the midst of making. But I don't just think it's a poker game and you can run your ship is going to dock at night and nobody's going to see what you've got on it. That's just fool's gold. You just need to do the right thing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love that. I love that you're encouraging people to use their voice. This is huge right now. And everything about this topic is so relevant, because what we are facing is this massive health crisis. And I think people really want answers. And it's like the answers are right in front of our face. They're on our feet. They're in our homes. They're every single product that we're using. This is actually a really, really great place to look. So my question is, you have a lot of years in the game. What's the tone? Is Keen noticing that the consumer is starting to become more savvy, that people are starting to, have the information to protect themselves a little better? What's the tone out there?
I think there are more and more and more people who are curious, who are now curious. Like, maybe I would say where Keen over time has just received a lot of, before people purchase, they want to know, is there anything that is going to cause any kind of dermatitis, rash, what have you, on my 4-year-old, my 5-7-year-old son or daughter? And so we take the time and literally answer their email, typically email or voicemail, and just literally tell them, yeah, we have eliminated all these fluorinated compounds that could be problematic. We've eliminated these pesticides, which could be threatening, and very, very important to kids. And a lot of moms are on this one. I don't know if this is a common compound, and I want to stay away from tech talk tonight, but I will throw one chemical compound out. That's phthalates, PHTH, ALTES. And phthalates are a chemical that softens plastics. And so it would be logical to think there could be, phthalates used on some plastic accessory to a piece of footwear. And that's one we watch very, very carefully, because for kids who have not gone through puberty, their immune system is very, very vulnerable. And you don't want kids, around it. And sadly, there have been cases where children have, had issues with that. State of Washington is extraordinarily careful on that. Some of the EU countries have very, very strict importation rules around phthalates, but phthalates is just, it's kind of I don't like the word hideous, but I will use it.
I'm with you. It's hideous. I mean, I know that they got quite a bit of attention in recent years because they are present in most conventionally produced nail polishes or nail lacquers. And I don't think people have any idea that they're something that would be present in shoe and footwear. And so it's quite alarming to hear that that's the reality. I will say my mom just purchased my niece a pair of Keens, and I can't wait to call her and let her know it was a really good choice. I do have a question from Eric Strobel with BBSI. He said he loves Keens. He only wears Keens, but he has a question about your marketing, and he wants to know, how does Keen market physical foot health? Like, for example, Alta markets its zero drop and large toe box. So what's kind of what are the pitches on Keen footwear?
Well, a good question. Thank you, Eric, for the question. I would say, two things. One, something about durability that people kind of, I don't know if they necessarily compute, is simply durability. Like Keen shoes, I would say on average are roughly twice as durable. I mean, it is not uncommon when I'm in an airport, which I no longer am, I guess, in a COVID. But, I just look at people's feet, right? That's what you do if you're in the footwear business. And, it's not uncommon to see people wearing Newport sandals, which is our #1 selling shoe, protects your toes, especially in, like murky water conditions or whatever you're doing. And it's become kind of a adventure travel shoe for people who are destinating to go out of the country or somewhere else in the country. And you'll see them that are 10 years old. I mean, I can spot them and go, that's a 2007 or that's a 2011. I mean, people are still getting utility. And, if you're going to take materials and make shoes, you don't want to take and make waste. You want to eliminate waste, which is what the circular economy is aiming to do. And that's a long journey that we're on, and it's going to take us years to get there. We have really good progress around how we manage factory impacts. Like I spoke to, like desalinization and cleaning water and reusing the same water endlessly. It's in an endless loop. Energy in an endless loop instead of burning coal and emitting greenhouse gases or something like that. So the other thing too is, like, we're fortunate in Central Oregon. We're fortunate to be in Oregon for a very simple reason that I think we take for granted. And since this is a pub talk, I have to bring this story up, Shannon. Will you give me one more minute?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. The Brew Shed Alliance, which was founded in Oregon and Washington, where, we have some of the best water in cities like Bend or Salem or Olympia or Bellingham, wherever it is. Phenomenal water quality here. And not surprising, we brew a lot of beer. Well, the Brew Shed Alliance has figured out that nature's filtration system and storage system are your U.S. Forest Service lands. I mean, that's where it's all filtered and all stored for kind of a steady release throughout the year. Well, I think that's so suggestive to me of a group that's connected the dots between the vitality, when 95%, 97% of the content of a bottle of beer is water, why it's so crucial. They raise their voices and they get involved in making their elected officials accountable and responsible to care and be great stewards of your public lands.
It's such a good point. And speaking of that, there's a lot of scary chemicals in some of your beers. So learn to ask questions and learn how to protect yourselves. If we're having trouble with our endocrine system, we're having autoimmune issues, this is where the answers are. So I have another question, and I know our audience is really curious too. What age group does Keen find is the most conscious purchaser or consumer? Do you have information? Do you have a sense of which age group is sort of the most conscious?
I would say 45 to 55, because I think they've finally realized maybe you need to get to 46 to realize you're immortal. You're not a 19-year-old Marine Corps recruit from Camp. Right. And so I think people, honestly, in their early 40s, and certainly it happens, I'm broad brushing it, but I think people start to be really thoughtful about what's going into their own system and what's going on to clothing and footwear is very personal. When you're wearing somebody's brand on your body, you have a responsibility and I think you have a right to know what are the all the little inputs. And as with so many people going outdoors in winter in Central Oregon, one of the things that you can begin to do some citizen activism on is PFCs again. Like all this durable water repellency, they're fluorinated surfactants. And that's a class of chemicals, again, that's, I don't even want to share this evening on the air they're just nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty.
And
it's nasty. Well,
they don't break down. That's the problem. They just don't break down.
Right. And again, I cannot encourage people enough. I think what's interesting about that particular age group that you share, that seems to be in our culture, the way it is currently designed, is like that becomes also the time when you have a little more freedom in how you're consuming in terms of your income level. So hopefully we've learned something through this COVID crisis, and maybe that can start to shift a little bit as well. But I cannot stress enough how important it is to educate ourselves and make strong choices for ourselves in terms of the chemicals that are out there. As you said, the US is really slow to the game on this. Our standards are just so low when it comes to these chemical components that are really causing us quite a lot of harm and causing our planet quite a lot of harm. So I can't thank you and Keen enough for the efforts that you're making and doing it so gracefully and so, just like because it is the right thing to do and really taking a lot of pride in that. It's quite inspiring. So I appreciate you so much. And in Pub Talk tradition, I have a gift for you, Kirk. I have this giant beer stein. So I'm going to get this to you. We'll bring it out to you in Sisters. And then you can bring it to all future Pub Talks that we meet in person on. And we'll go ahead and fill it up for you. I think it could fit at least 3 to 5 beers. Maybe want to have one of those be soda water just to keep yourself hydrated. But again, it's been such a pleasure talking with you both before tonight and this evening, and the information that you've shared is just incredibly invaluable. So I don't know if you have any parting comments, but it's been such a pleasure having you.
First of all, thank you, Shannon, for working with you. And it's been a thrill to be here. I would say, if there was one parting comment, read this website, buildingclean.org. What they're about is translating complexity into simplicity. And they kind of give business people like myself and yourself and others 6 classes of chemicals to fight to get rid of. And they're very simply antimicrobials, fluorosurfactants, flame retardants, phthalates, biphenyls, industrial solvents, and certain metals. And you can read it for yourself, and it tells you exactly what the compound names are and what the impacts are to, the broader environment, let's say.
I love that. Such a great resource. So that's buildingclean.org, and anybody can take a look at that. And in fact, we all really owe it to ourselves, our children, our families, and our planet to do so. Well, Kirk, thank you so much. And I hope to see you in person very, very soon. Thanks for taking the time to share with us. You're just an incredible wealth of knowledge, and it's just a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Shannon, thank you so much for your grace.
Got it. Anytime.
Bye.
All right, my friends, what a great night. Thank you so much for having me. I do want to invite all of you to join me and my friends at Riff Cold Brew tomorrow night. If you head over to riffcoldbrew.com, we are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Riff. There will be a lip sync battle. It's a celebrity judges panel. It's too much fun just for fun's sake. I also want to let you know that June 25th is our next Pub Talk. We will be here, there, or somewhere with green eggs and ham. I don't know, but I really look forward to being with you again. It's such an honor, such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks for clicking in. Remember to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, boost those immune systems, wash those hands, release the fear and the judgment, and I will see you in a month, if not before. Good night. Thank you, Edco. Thanks for having me.